Hey guys, Thomas the Solar Genie here, aka Mustache Tom, and it's time for me to review Hazbin Hotel Season 1. If you end up enjoying this full season review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, and do all that cool stuff, and showing will be reminded at to the end of the way. Now, if you have not yet seen Hazbin Hotel, I would highly recommend not seeing this review because it will contain spoilers throughout the entire first season. That is how much I'm already going to recommend watching the show before watching this review, is watch the show first and then come back here. With that being said, it's time to dig into Hazbin Hotel as objectively as possible. Now, of course, we have to talk about sort of the preset stuff that was established beforehand, such as the pilot, which was actually came out quite some time ago from this. Then it getting picked up by Prime, which, when I heard about that initially, I myself was definitely very concerned. Typically, when a big company buys out an independent, they tend to typically ruin such stuff, and with it being cut so short within 8 episodes, it definitely seemed as if that could very well be the case. However, I will say, given the 8 episodes as short as that was, I found myself relatively impressed with the overwhelming amount of material that they were able to cram in such a short time span between each episode. Now, first comes the bigger praise, is the music in this season. Most of the songs are of extremely high quality. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this is easily the best musical series that is out there. Like, seriously, this is top tier musical seasonal stuff. Like, every song in this season, maybe with the exception of one song, which is, for me, Welcome to Heaven. I felt like that song was just a bit too short and it wasn't as catchy as the other songs. It was performed fairly well, but it just didn't have that oomph that the other songs had by comparison. But again, the rest of the songs are extremely high quality, really well written, and how they even have the duality of earlier songs in comparison to some of the latter songs is really impressive as well, and how they tie that all together in a beautiful ribbon. Furthermore, with the music out of the way, we can talk about some of the criticisms that have been levied against this show. That primarily being the pacing. I have heard this criticism levied throughout. Now, what I will say is this. Yes, the pacing of this show is incredibly quick. However, I'm going to point out, just because this show has a quicker pace, that does not equal bad writing. I am tired of critics saying this. It's not a good criticism. I'm sorry, but it's not. Just saying it's bad because it has bad pacing doesn't actually really mean anything. You actually have to dive in on what's in each episode and actually dig to prove what you mean by that. And I don't think I've seen a video that had really compelling evidence to show that the bad pacing also equaled bad writing. Again, with actual proof, that is. So, I guess it is my job to do the opposite of that then, is to prove that despite the quick pacing, that the writing is of excellent quality, or rather still pretty damn good quality, if anything else. So, let's take the characters, for example. Taking Charlie as, like, the main protagonist, we have ourselves essentially a Disney princess in hell. Pretty much everyone can agree to that once seeing this show. Like, that is essentially the vibe that we get in even as early as episode 1. However, we see later on that her doubts about a revelation that Vaggie is an angel, come into conflict. Not so much that she is an angel, but rather that she kept that secret from her. So we see the doubts, we see her frustrations as well, building up in an attempt to redeem these sinners. That is her primary goal, is to redeem sinners. And we have an additional plot that is in conjunction with that plot, is that we learn at the end of the first episode that the angels are going to be coming down in half the amount of time, giving us a really well-established clock to run against. This ups the tension immediately as early as episode 1. So now we already have our stakes. Our tension is already built as early as episode 1. And I can tell you, as someone who has seen some Disney shows, in comparison to for Charlie being a Disney princess, there are shows like Ahsoka, just as an example, that go through virtually almost of all of their 6 episodes, and the last 2 is where you're like, oh, that was actually like the beginning of that thing potentially being a character, I guess. Like, that is how late it typically takes for something like Disney to be like, oh, that's a character, by the way, and that's what they're going to go through. And again, as early as episode 1, we have our stakes, and we have 2 characters really well established. But it gets better as the season goes on. We learn, of course, about all the other residents of the hotel. We learn how mysterious and sinister Alistair is, for example, but hints of whether or not he's truly genuine about changing, ? This is definitely the biggest mystery that has been the actual crux, the actual mystery. And I know there were people who were like, oh, they did this early reveal about certain things. It's like, well, hold on, that's not the big reveal. They are actually holding out what the bigger reveals have been. So I like that even when they reveal certain levels of information, there's still so much in the pocket of Hazbin's Hotel's, like, ability to still capture with the amount of information that they can still give us, with primarily with Alistair in its character. And so we move on to characters like Angel Dust, who primarily in episode 4 we see how much he has been abused and how much he has put himself in that situation, as we learn. But we also see the beginning of his character arc even within that episode. That is how quick it happens. We see how immediately he's already becoming protective of Charlie when Val is demanding, like, you have to do this, you have to do this. And then he says, you have to get rid of Charlie. And then you immediately hear him say, like, oh, she just does whatever. Like, and, like, he was trying to get rid of her to, like, protect her. Like, that immediately, so quick, and you can miss it. It is unbelievable. And again, that really shows that despite the pacing, we're already getting so many levels of character development, even within, like, such a small, like, it happens within a few seconds, I'm telling you. And then you have Husker's backstory, or Husk, excuse me, whichever way you would want to call him, I guess. And his deal with Alistair, which was kind of established in the pilot, but I am glad that they did both his backstory and Alistair's backstory in case you missed the pilot. They did both, still within the context of Season 1, just in case anyone missed Season 1. So they crammed both of those things in there. They're both in there, clearly. So yes, and then we have even more characters. Like this one season, like every one episode, there's like a new character coming in, and within 5 minutes, I've seen so many people saying, "Oh wow, I already know what this character is like," or "I already have a feeling of what this character is like." 5 minutes is all it takes with how well written they are done, how well acted they are performed. It is insane the level of quality that is happening within every few seconds. They are not wasting time. That's the key to the quick pacing of Hazbin Hotel, is that they're still not wasting time. Everything that is happening on screen to the visuals is still telling you so much about the characters. So with that said, every character gets so much, even later on characters like Lucifer, that being Charlie's dad. We see how much of a goofball he is, how much he was dealing with depression, and we still don't even know why Lilith left him. We just see like the silhouette of her leaving in that backstory, but we don't know why. We still have mysteries despite seeing the backstory and seeing the beautiful music that comes from this little exchange between them reuniting here, that between Lucifer and Charlie here. And that it's primarily in the second half, but then again in the first half we see him against Alistair, and how quickly that is established, with them fighting over, and Alistair putting on this sort of like, oh, I always kind of wanted to have a daughter sort of act, and we sort of see him purposely look at Lucifer, so that again tells you so much information without saying anything, that Alistair is clearly pulling some kind of stunt here to some extent. There has to be a reason he's doing this, to mess with Lucifer specifically. So every episode has these little things. If you don't, again, even if it's not within the direct writing of what characters are saying, it's still within the visual storytelling as well. Like Alistair's little eye twitches when he gets pissed, like things like that, things you can easily miss if you're not paying attention closely enough. And you can see it every time, like say during the meeting of like he meets with the other overlords, and you when he's directly dealing with Carmilla, I think her name is, and when he's like, oh, you know, don't you want to know why I was gone? And then she's like, oh, I don't care. You can see how much that actually really does bug him with the eye twitch. You see how much his eyes, without ever saying anything, how much that can tell you about what Alistair really is like. He despite going against Vox, I think his name is, the TV demon guy, you can tell that despite him dunking on him for craving the attention, that he too also clearly craves some level of attention that is clearly has something to do with his power. I would imagine that has to be like a part of it, it would seem. So yeah, there's so many of these little like things that are happening in the background that are again within the context of the visual storytelling that is also simultaneously adding to each of the characters. And all while we're seeing our several antagonists, the main one being Adam, from the intro, saying like how demons can't be redeemed, and again how much that establishes about what season 1's going to be, with the exception of demons can be redeemed through this hotel. We see their meeting in heaven. We meet Emily there, another new character who's like the equivalent of Charlie, but in heaven. Like everyone admits that that's essentially what that is. But Sarah, there's something off about Sarah, another mystery. Surprise, surprise. Again, they have a lot more mysteries than I think a lot of people may have like legitimately forgot about or forgotten not to add. So yeah, there are definitely hints, because she was talking about during her song, where like there's so many sides to this one song where they're talking about, like, when they're seeing Angel Dust's character development episode, where they're testing Angel, like they're visually seeing him in this party, and we're seeing him do all of the stuff, like standing up to his abuser, protecting Nifty, and so on and so forth. And we have so many different dynamics from Charlie wanting to be like, hey, what the heck is going on? We proved that this is, that these demons can change. And then you have the angels on the other side, who are the ones doing the killing, being like, no, it's still like we get the right to kill you guys. And that actually does slip out during the song, and then you see the Seraphim / Emily sort of going up against each other within one song. Like, this song is crazy good. Like, how many different dynamics, and how fast, and how well it still, like, rings in the ear of, like, the shifting is just so smooth, despite it having so many different perspectives within it. And of this course, this is where Vaggy's secret, I suppose, gets revealed about her being an angel, and us dealing with that. So, we see that in the next episode, it's them building up, because from episode to episode, we are, like, skipping months, like a month or a month and a month and a month for, like, each episode, I think. That's how, like, they set this up, based on some of the dialogue that is within the context of this episode. So, with that being said, we now have Charlie dealing with that information, and we finally get this deal where Alistair makes a deal that he wants a favor. People are already now speculating that this deal will likely have something to do with breaking his contract with Lilith, if that is the contract that he indeed signed 7 years ago, which is a whole thing that people noted, is that Lilith disappeared 7 years ago, as well as he did also 7 years ago. So people are pointing out that that can't be a coincidence, that both disappeared 7 years ago. So there's something that's happening between those two. It could very well be the contract, and Charlie could be the one that Alistair puts forth to be like, hey, you get me out of this contract. And she might even have the power to do so, being, well, the Princess of Hell and all. So yeah, every episode is definitely building up quite a lot. Now, there is one character, Lord and forbid, Sir Pentious, the Snake Man of the series, and I neglected to talk about him on purpose. He was very much this guy who was just like, oh, I'm gonna attack the base, your hotel. We see that in the pilot as well. We see it once again in episode 1. And then, like, an episode later, he's like, oh, I want the attention of the V's, let me, I want that. And then they actually contact him to, like, get him on board, to, like, sneak in and spy on the Hazbin Hotel. So he sets up and gets, like, caught within a day, and he feels miserable. So he's just like, kill me, whatever, I don't want to deal with this anymore. But of course, Charlie, being the one who's dealing with forgiveness, puts forth the idea that you gotta truly say you're sorry and move on from there. And so he does. And you know what? Despite the over-dramatic, like, motions of him, I actually did also simultaneously believe him, too. It never felt like he was being not genuine with his speaking. And every episode after that, we always see Sir Pentious, like, having these little oomph faces, or, like, little, like, faces are being emotional. Like, we're seeing such a drastic change happening so quickly from the pacing, but how fast characters shift to meet with that pacing. That is the masterclass of how Hazbin Hotel excels at the writing, not fails due to the pacing. It excels at it because, again, the characters match with it. That is what is actually vital with season 1. Now, of course, I can't say with everything is perfection. There are still plenty of mysteries, but season 2 has already been confirmed. So with that, let's finally talk about the finale. In here, we finally see that the day has come. The angels are about to attack. The clock has run out. That is what the season has been about from that perspective, as well as, again, we were told, Charlie's dream about redeeming the demons there. So, we're preparing up. She's still a little bit upset, but she's more focused on making sure that they are prepared, which, fair enough. So she primarily focuses on that at the beginning. So she goes with Alistair to go deal with whatever, that was, and then they came back with all their reinforcements. And then Vaggie coming back. And now that they're all here, we see them prepping up. And with that, we then see that the angels, immediately after, are getting ready to swarm in. And thus, our major battle begins. So, our major battle begins. And, spoiler alert, yes, one of the main characters does die. And I thought he was a side character, but no, I do think that he's a main character, after really considering it. The cast is fairly big, but I feel like every character really serves their role. So it is Sir Pentious, which I was a little bit surprised by, at least initially, but then after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, that actually does kind of fit, actually. He was despite being the second one of the hotel, the whole bit about him and Charlie and then Angel Dust, and we see how Angel Dust was hurt by when she said, oh, you're actually being, really, taking this seriously, or whatever she said. So, she complimented him about, adjusting and, improving upon, his performance or whatever. So yeah, we see that he has been, despite all the little kooky things that he's been up to, whether that be his failure of flirting with Cherry in that one episode, we see just I think it's only 2 episodes later, here at the finale, where we see when the angels break through the barrier and Alistair is now exposed. We see Adam go after him first. So Alistair is at least injured and out of the fight for the rest of it, while, no, this is something that I do think that as far as the writing is concerned, Season 2 is definitely going to have to address what I'm about to talk about next, is that we see Charlie transform, and she transforms with her 2 little goat creatures, Razzle and Dazzle. I don't remember which one's Razzle and which one's Dazzle, if I'm being honest. Whoops. So they fly up there, and we see one of them get attacked, to death, I think. I'm pretty sure. There was blood and everything. We see it, collapse on the ground. And they don't really address it. So I'm that's definitely gonna have to be, something they address in Season 2. Otherwise, I'm gonna be, really tilting my head at the opening of Season 2. I'm gonna why aren't they focusing on this? That seemed like something that was definitely overlooked. But despite that, we still have the rest of it. We have, again, Serpentius charging in, and he does get his kiss. He does confess his true feelings for Cherry Bomb, being in love with her, despite being the rivals at a point. So you see him charging in with his blimp, and then, like, Adam just obliterates it within a nanosecond. There is one egg that is alive, by the way, if anyone noticed that. After, like, when you, during the little musical, or after it, I believe, we see one of the eggs on the floor that's still in one piece. So he does have an egg boy that's still in hell, though he's in heaven after the fact. Yes, he does actually appear in heaven, which marks the success of the second, or the primary focus of Hazbin Hotel, that a soul from hell can be redeemed. It was proved, though no one knows it was proved, it was. So both of the things that Season 1 and Season 1 established, that were set up in Episode 1 rather, were all addressed in the finale. That is expert writing. That is something you cannot refute. That is how you do it. And not only did they do those two things, they simultaneously gave us enough information to tease Season 2 on top of that. So yes, we also get the reveal of Lilith. She apparently, and I will be honest, when I first saw this, I thought she was on Earth. And apparently people are saying that's heaven. I thought when I was first, it looks like a beach. So I thought, she was on Earth? Like, what? Like, that's what I took it as when I first saw this. And we see, what's her name? Lute, the General Angel, talking with her. And that's the final scene for Hazbin Hotel, Season 1. That is our hook. Lute saying, like, you need to go to hell and deal with your daughter, essentially. And she kind of gives, like, this look, and that's about really as much as we get on that. But again, what we are left with is still this deal. We still have the V's, so we have two things that we can focus on. We have Lilith, that's 3. We have 3 different things that have all been established that can have each a season of their own, if we're being completely honest. That is how much material they set up for themselves. That is also pretty incredible. It's just about how much time they actually get for Season 2 and how much they actually do with it. So it's a wait and see on that part. Now, of course, I have my own predictions. One of my predictions immediately is definitely Charlie is going to be used to break the deal. Whatever that deal with Alistair is, if it is indeed with Lilith, then he will definitely use it to break that. He will use her to break that deal, however doing so is. The Hazbin Hotel itself, we see it get rebuilt, we see it's bigger now. So we're probably going to get more characters in Season 2. They're going to be permanent residents, so the cast is definitely going to... It's probably going to get only harder to maintain, like, the level of however many characters they plan on adding for Season 2. Though Cherry Bomb does seem to just be a part of the crew now, which just sort of happens. After the fight, we see her building alongside them. And yeah, that really wraps it up. And again, like, despite the pacing, like, I'm trying to think, like, what other criticisms were there? I'm really struggling to think of any, actually. Outside of, like, the minor razzle-dazzle thing. Whichever one it was. And I thought about the angel wings for Vaggie, because that was established later on. she does use them. I actually got mistaken. I had to rewatch the episode. She actually does use them to her advantage in the final battle. I thought it was more of a symbolic thing, if anything, like her finally conquering that feeling that her secret was now out, and with that, I guess, something with love gave her wings back, I guess. Yeah, that one is a little bit on the weak side, because it just sort of happens, and there's not really an explanation as to why that happens, but whatever. I would still put that under a slight minor character thing. Like, she still struggles in her fight, despite having the wings, though she does use them to her advantage later on in the fight. So again, I wouldn't consider that it makes the entire season bad. That's stupid to say. Like, that one minor thing, that's not enough. And again, with how much the characters are putting out there, it really is a struggle to point to be like, well, we didn't really actually get X amount of character, or the writing is just bad because the writing is bad, or I don't know. I can't really point to much else with as being as objective as possible. I'm gonna have to give this season, based on, despite its short pacing, a 9 out of 10. I think that this season went beyond and above expectations for me. And the only reason I would not give it a 10 out of 10 is that there are just the minor things that I think that at least one of them will at least be accounted for in season 2. But we'll have to, again, wait and see. So that is my review of Hazbin Hotel Season 1. If you end up enjoying this season review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, and chill, and do all of that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.